Holy Toledo, look at this. Satoshi emails from Sirius. Marty Malmi recently disclosed emails correspondence with Satoshi Nakamoto. This is quite good. Now, I'm going to have to look at the real documents, but let's just go through this. Satoshi's Bitcoin scaling assumptions. There it is, Satoshin. I guess that's Satoshi N at gmx.com. And then Sirius-M at usersourceforge.net. You can see that. Oops. I guess when I touch, you'll see it. Thanks for starting that topic on ASC. I don't know what ASC is. We're going to just go through these quickly, but this sure sounds like Craig Wright. I can see. Code-wise, there's not much that's easy right now. One thing that's needed is the interface for the server-side scripting language, such as Java, Python, PHP, ASP, etc. Wow, this is a long time ago. Bitcoin was running on a web server, and server-side script could call it to do transactions. It's Windows, so I guess OLE. Yeah, Windows again sounds like Craig. I'm surprised that all this happened on Windows, but who knows. When asked to scale, he said 100,000. I'm just going to go through these quickly because this sounds really cool. Satoshi talked frequently about his vision for how the network might grow larger, and it's notable much of his ideas were not proven to be viable based on subsequent development work. But I like this part about spending, to think about what a really huge transaction load would look like. I look at the existing credit card network. I found some more estimates about how many transactions are online purchases. It's about 15 million transactions per day for the entire e-commerce load of the internet worldwide. At 1K per transaction, that would be 15K of bandwidth for each block generating node per day, or about 2 DVD movies worth. Seems doable even with today's technology. Important to remember, even if Bitcoin caught on at .com rates of growth, it would still take years to become any substantial fraction of all transactions. I believe hardware has already recently become strong enough to handle large scale, but if there's any doubt about that, bandwidth speeds, prices, disk space, and computing power will be much greater by the time it's needed. Satoshi doesn't waste energy. This is the one I giggled at, because ironic if we end up to choose between economic liberty and conservation. Ironic if we end up having to choose between conservation and economic liberty. Unfortunately, but that part doesn't sound too much like Craig Wright, because he doesn't talk about economic liberty that much. In fact, he seems to be pro-government. He says, but I guess you kind of have to say that. You can't be anti-government. And unfortunately, proof of work is the only solution I've found to make the peer-to-peer eCash work without a trusted third party. Yeah, this part does sound like Craig. If it does grow to consume significant energy, I think it would still be less wasteful than the labor and resource-intensive conventional banking activity it would replace. Imagine if it replaced all the banks. The cost would be an order of magnitude less than the billions in banking fees that pay for all those brick and mortar buildings, skyscrapers, and junk mail credit card offers. That is true. Satoshi on timestamping. A heated debate remains today about whether Bitcoin is money or whether it can or does have other ancillary uses. Yes, and it doesn't seem to be money because of the way people hoard it. But Satoshi seems to offer some insights on the debate, noting his beliefs the blockchain can be used as a distributed timestamping server. That definitely sounds like Craig. This is akin to what happened in Guatemala, where the blockchain has been used to certify contentious elections in recent years. That's good. Indeed, Bitcoin is a if I don't remember if we talked about this, but the other day, some people were mentioning secure timestamping. You want to be able to prove that a certain document existed at a certain time in the past. Seems to me that Bitcoin's stack of blocks would be perfect for this. Indeed, Bitcoin is a distributed, secure timestamp server for transactions. A few lines of code would create a transaction with a hash in it of anything that needs to be timestamped. I should add a command to timestamp a file that way. Yeah, so that definitely sounds like Craig. Satoshi talks DigiCash. Satoshi describing the differences between Bitcoin and DigiCash. Dave Chom's failed e-money. This is notable as Chom's work had a profound impact on cyberpunks, including Hal Finney. So Hal Finney is a cyberpunk. He specifically discusses the differences in privacy properties of the two models and notes that unlike Chom's scheme, did not support an offline model, requiring all participants to be online to make use of the system. He also explains a finite supply cap of Bitcoin. It's similar in that it uses digital signatures for coins, but different in the approach to privacy and preventing double spending. The recipient of a Bitcoin payment is able to check whether it is the first spend or not. The second spends are not accepted. There isn't an offline mode where double spenders are caught and shamed after the fact, because that would require participants to have identities. There isn't an offline mode where double spenders are caught and shamed after the fact. I don't quite understand what. There isn't an offline mode. Maybe he talks about that. To protect privacy, key pairs are used only once, with a new one for every transaction. The owner of a coin is just whoever has its private key. Key pairs. Of course, the biggest difference is the lack of a central server. That was the Achilles heel of Chomian's system. When a central company shut down, so did the currency. Yes, okay. But he's saying to protect key pairs are only used once, but you do have these generating words, the 12 or the 24 words, that seed phrases. And of course, a computer or any software can generate new key pairs, but I don't think it's possible, or it's not good for the user to have to remember hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of private keys. So they should have some generating algorithm. I think that's what he's saying here. And it is kind of not the way people are using it, but I wonder if these online wallets and Chrome extensions, which are really dangerous in my opinion, are auto-generating all these addresses. I think it must. Maybe it's, of course, yeah, he said. Also in Bitcoin, there's a limited supply of money that must be managed. Or is the money created exactly misspelled at the moment of transaction? There's a limited supply of money. Circulation will be 21 million. I don't know where that came from. Coins. Transactions only transfer ownership. Transactions only transfer ownership. Oh, yeah, because there is no... But the act of mining creates new. Thank you for your questions. Concerns about promoting Bitcoin. So he was concerned about the legal risk in launching Bitcoin, noting he was uncomfortable with explicitly labeling it as an investment. Here also we see he didn't come up with the term cryptocurrency himself. There's a lot of things you can say on the SourceForge site that I can't say on my own site. Even so, I'm uncomfortable with explicitly saying, consider it an investment. That's a dangerous thing to say and should delete. And you should delete that bullet point. It's okay if they come up to the conclusion if they come to that conclusion on their own, but we can't pitch it as that. A few details. The FAQ says, see section blah, blah, but the sections aren't numbered. Also, could you delete that last sentence in the FAQ? They are planned to be hidden since they're just confusing and annoying, and there's no reason for users to have to see them. That's not really something I meant to say publicly. The links to the site to help set up the 8333 port forwarding is great. Fave icon is a nice touch. Someone came up with the word cryptocurrency. Maybe it's a word we should use when describing Bitcoin. Do you like it? Wow, Satoshi got burned out on Bitcoin. And Satoshi was tired, saying he needed a break from Bitcoin. Yes, that kind of coincides with Craig. I think he had all kinds of issues. Here, he also explains Hal's absence from the work. He also mentions spending a period of 18 months at that point developing Bitcoin. A curious note as well, he asked Malby if he has any ideas for applications people can actually use Bitcoin for. I know this sounds really retarded, but I still haven't been able to get the SourceForge login page to load. So I haven't been able to read it either. Login, wow. Hal isn't currently actively involved. He helped me a lot defending the design on the cryptography list and with the initial testing when it was first released. He carried this torch years ago with his reusable proof of work. I'm not going to be much help right now either. Pretty busy with work and need a break from it after 18 months development. It would help if there was something for people to use it for. We need an application to bootstrap it. Any ideas? There are donors I can tap if we come up with something that needs funding, but they want to be anonymous, which makes it hard to actually do anything with it. Email to get a way to get free money. Satoshi discusses how Bitcoin might gain adoption. Of note is the emphasis that Bitcoin was easy to obtain given that you could mine it on your computer. He also goes to postulate how the nature of a market trading for Bitcoin would evolve, discussing how skeptical people might be of its value. People would be skeptical of its value, stating he was confident that increasing mining difficulty would prove its scarcity to people. Wow. Very different how we think of BTC today in terms of acquiring it, but demonstrating impressions on how people would mentally value it in the future. Offering currency to back Bitcoin would attract freebie seekers. That doesn't sound like Craig, but with the benefit of attracting a lot of publicity. At first, it would mostly be seen as a way to get free money for your computer's idle time, maybe pitched like help support the future of e-commerce and get a little money for your computer's spare cycles. As people cash in and actually get paid, word would spread exponentially. It might help to keep the minimum transaction size above an amount which a typical user would be able to accumulate with one computer, so that users have to trade with each other for someone to collect enough to cash in. Wow. Aggregators would set up shop to buy Bitcoin in smaller increments, which would add confidence to users' ability to sell Bitcoin if there are more available buyers than just you. People would obviously be skeptical, that's a hard word, at first that the backing will hold up against an onslaught of people trying to get the free money. But as the competition raises the proof of work difficulty, it should become clear that Bitcoins stay scarce. People will see that they can't just get all the Bitcoin they want. It would establish a minimum value under Bitcoins, enabling them to be used for other purposes, if hopefully other purposes are waiting for something to use. A mysterious donor. In June 2010, someone offered to donate $2,000 to Satoshi for his Bitcoin work. Notably, he had the donor send it to Marty's address. He also communicated care that the donor's privacy was respected. He also communicated, I got a donation offer of $2,000. But that would seem strange that Craig Wright would care about $2,000. But donation over $2,000. I need to get your postal mailing address to have him send to. And yes, he wants to remain anonymous, so please keep the envelope origin private. In the form of cash in the mail. Can you receive it or act as the project's treasurer? That would be nice. I can do it. That would be nice. I can do it. Sending cash in the mail may have its risks, but maybe it's still the best anonymous option. We can also ask for donations in BTC on the forum. Wow, it's interesting that they're talking about hosting costs. Satoshi was a fan of free transactions. Already Bitcoin free. Here he's discussing removing transaction fees from the UX on the early software. Thanks for that. I'm still merging some of the changes I had that need to go in before any next release. I'm going to hide the transaction fee setting, which is completely not needed and only serves to confuse people. It was only there for testing and demonstration of a technical detail that can only be needed in the far away future, if ever, but was necessary to implement at the beginning to make it possible later. What was the problem with the shortcut in the startup folders? If you can send me the code, I'd like to take a look and see if I can see what the problem was. The first string cat, this looks like C code, right? String cat and the registry code. Oh, registry, this is Windows, should be string copy. Otherwise, it would fail immediately. String copy, yeah, this is C. If the same code was in the shortcut one, maybe that was the problem. It's encouraging to see more people taking interest, such as that new Liberty Standard site. I like his approach to estimating the value based on electricity. It's educational to see what explanations people adopt. They may help discover a simplified way of understanding it that makes it more accessible to the masses. Many complex concepts in the world have simplistic explanations that satisfy 80% of the people and a complete explanation that satisfies the other 20% who see the flaws in the simplistic explanation. I'm going to pause. It was dedicated to his Bitcoin work. You're right. I was looking at a test run with 250,000 blocks. A normal one shows 17 megs memory usage and 10 megs virtual. A web currency for web trading. Oh, how many more? Liberty Reserve later shut down. Oh my goodness. He goes on to discuss the potentials for markets sending, like Liberty Reserve. Oh, gosh. Bitcoin in reverse, that's easy to get Bitcoins just by generating them, but it would be easy for customers to go Bitcoin to Liberty Reserve to cash, Bitcoin to Liberty Reserve to gold, Bitcoin to Liberty Reserve to PayPal, and maybe they just want to save money and then just Bitcoin to Liberty Reserve. Wow. There's also the idea of BTC to PSC. Had to sell pay safe cards for Bitcoin, either online delivery or sending the card number by email. In some countries, they're called gift cards and can be used wherever credit cards are accepted. I think they're used more by people who don't have a credit history to get a real credit card. So they buy gift cards themselves to pay for things that require a credit card. Yeah, well, that happens in America too, these gift cards. First disappearance. I've been so busy with other things last month. That sounds like a lot of people, but possibly correct. I just downloaded my email since the beginning of April. I mostly have things sorted and should be back to Bitcoin. As I recall, the code was nearly ready. The JSON API is nearly complete. JSON API, that's cool. When I left off, I was thinking about bolting a payment mechanism onto a free upload server software as an example. What the heck? Why did that get cut off? Oh, that's just part of it. This just goes on. Realized Bitcoin wasn't anonymous. If it was removed, it was Satoshi who removed the language that Bitcoin was anonymous from bitcoin.org. He worried that it made Bitcoin sound shady. This echoes his later sentiments about WikiLeaks announcing their acceptance of Bitcoin for donations. I think we should de-emphasize the anonymous angle with the popularity of Bitcoin addresses instead of sending by IP. We can't give the impression it's automatically anonymous. It's possible to be pseudonymous. Pseudonymous. That's a hard word. Pseudonymous. Yes. But you have to be careful. Synonymous, I think. If someone digs through the transaction history and starts exposing information people thought was anonymous, the backlash will be much worse if we haven't prepared expectations by warning in advance that you have to take precautions if you really want to make that work. Like Tor says, Tor does not magically encrypt all your internet activities. Understand what Tor does and does not do for you. Also, anonymous sounds a bit shady. I think the people who want anonymous will still figure out without us trumpeting it. Figure it out. I made some changes to the Bitcoin homepage. It's not really crucial to update the translations. I tend to keep editing and correction for some time afterwards. So if they want to update, they should wait. I removed the word anonymous, and the sentence about anonymity means, although you worded it so carefully, can be kept hidden. It was a shame to remove it. Gives praise to his protege. Who's his protege? Highly of Gavin Andresen. Here he is praising Gavin and referring to someone else as a goofball. And he hasn't posted for months, and he was a goofball. I don't know. Zuni, I don't know who that is. Saranara, so he said goodbye. And I think I'm going to say goodbye here. I'll make an image saying it would. Mind if I add you to the project developers list? It would have to be a real name for consistency. If you don't want to have an email listed, I'll make an image out of it so it doesn't attract spam. Overall, no substance. Is this where it ends? Yep, good. Peace out.